Alright, so we got everyone's favorite manufacturer, Chevy. It's a 2012 Chevy Cruze. Simply put, this has got a very common issue. I'm going to show you the host of codes that I got currently. Oh, this car did come from the auction. And every time we get a car from the auction, it always have something special with it, put it that way. But this does have a common leak here at the, let me see if I can zoom in on that. There's a outlet hose right here, and there's a O-ring that's leaking down in there, so it's got some fluid up there. And then of course the PCV system is leaking. That has a issue with the diaphragm. This will leak, suck in air, and you will get like lean codes, drivability issues. And usually the drivability issues will present itself as a result of the lean codes because of the accommodations the fuel trims have to do, and it just doesn't go back and relearn itself. That's why you have to do a recalibration with the fuel trims at times. So I'm going to show you what we got. We'll look at the fuel trims because I'll admit that's one thing I have not looked up yet. I did look up the trouble codes. All of these are correlated. So we got a P016. It's the manifold absolute pressure map performance. That's related to the vacuum leak, because if there's insufficient vacuum or unaccounted for air, that air that goes to the mass airflow sensor is going to be unaccounted for. So that's going to be a problem. Mass airflow sensors up there. I think that's probably like an air temp sensor. Sometimes the map sensor is going to have a mass airflow sensor is going to be a monolith, and it'll have a temp sensor integrated in there. So I think that's an air temp sensor. But I know that's the map sensor over there. We likely have an air temp sensor here, so I might pull that out and take a look at it. I can't remember every single thing. But in regards to the map sensor, the manifold pressure sensor, there's one in the intake manifold up there. And let me point to it. This joker right here sits there right by the purge valve, which commonly fails also. Purge valve. So we have a heated oxygen sensor, delay response to lean to rich. Now this right here will be correlated with the the vacuum leak also, simply because again, if the fuel trims are off, the air fuel ratio sensor only, and that's located, let me see here, the air fuel ratio sensor. Oh gosh. There's our upstream air fuel ratio sensor right there. If there's discrepancies with the vacuum, we already have an unaccounted for air. Now the readings, even though the combustion is appropriate, the car is making accommodations. If the car is making unnecessary accommodations, even though the internal combustion is perfectly fine, then you're going to have some response issues. So that's where that code come into play. Then we got fuel system lean. That's the P0171. That's pertaining that code there. One thing under boost. So the under boost conditions of P0299, that could be pertaining loose hose, but at the same time, if we do have a vacuum leak, that's still going to be correlated with the vacuum leak, because we could have air escaping the diaphragm or just unaccounted. This could be a plethora of things, just my conjecture. It could also be that we have a faulty fuel system, meaning that it's working inappropriately because of unaccounted for air or lean mixture. We could be getting improper fuel, and that could cause the turbo not to spool properly. If it's lean, it's not going to respond well, and a lean mixture is going to cause the response of the turbo to be inefficient. So I don't know if you ever have driven a turbo vehicle and you didn't have enough fuel, but it starved for fuel, which gave you low boost conditions. So we have intake, airflow, system performance, P1101, intake airflow system. Now, I want to say that's still going to be pertaining like that mass airflow sensor, and that's probably because of a combination of our unaccounted for air and whatever the system utilizes to make a determination. The car just don't use one sensor to determine that there's a fault. It uses a combination of things to determine, like, okay, this is a problem, then likely it's going to be this. So that's what I'm thinking there. And then we have a P2270 heated O2 sensor signal stuck lean. So, and that's likely just still again pertaining to our lean issue. I don't know if anything I can put here. You can just hear air whizzing through here. I might be able to put my glove through there, something like a piece of paper. You can see it just suck in, because once this diaphragm fails, it'll start sucking air through here. You'll hear like a little hissing noise. But all those codes are related to that vacuum leak. I'm gonna start it up. We're gonna look at some PID data. I'm gonna try not to forget to pull this out, but I really think I might have to look at a diagram. But I think this is just like an air temp sensor. Don't hold me on that. I ain't the smartest man in the world. So I'm gonna start up. We'll hear the air. We do have a valve cover. We're gonna put that in there, and I'm gonna change some plugs while I got it out. And let's look at the fuel trims, and then we'll compare afterwards. Let's go out here. You know what I should have done? Would just go straight to fuel trim. I should have there we go right here. Rushing, jumping the gun. So yeah, our long term is plus 30%. So we're adding a lot of fuel. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put my finger over. Let's see here. We can isolate these long term. That's the average. Oh, he's gonna need these here long term. I don't need that. Short term. So when I put my finger over that vacuum leak, it should change. This number should drop, the short term, to make the initial accommodation. And this one should probably, depending on how rapid it is, should change also and drop. But I don't plan on the long term. I just want to see the short term drop. All right, I'm putting my finger over the hole now. So it is dropping, it's going negative. And once the short term start going too far out negative, then the long term will start making accommodations and dropping also. We want that closest to zero as possible. I've had some cars, the last one I put the motor in, run as perfect as zero on long term and short term. That damn thing ran great. So yeah, this is definitely our problem here. Let me zoom out and show you what I'm doing. I'm gonna take my finger off. You can hear the air. It's coming back up, going back to zero. Put my finger back over it. Let's go back here. So here I am. Sure you can hear that. Yeah. Huh. Now once you get this, let's see if I can get this to focus. Once you get this replaced, if you have a bidirectional scan tool, you'll want to go to the special features and do a fuel trim reset. We should get some parameters. If not, then, okay, here we go. So the long term is still at 35%. So once I reset it, once I repair it, it's going to drop to zero. The car is going to run like crap until it makes its accommodations. Yeah, it's starting to idle poorly. This is the great thing about air fuel ratio sensors. Once it detects the fault, it can make immediate accommodation because it's not as narrow as a regular oxygen sensor. And there it goes, immediately making accommodations for the fuel system. Yeah, it slowed down a little bit because the evap purge valve came on. You start hear that clicking. Once that clicks, it start pulling fuel vapors. That does help with idle conditions also. So that's going to naturally just run up. This should be naturally below 10. So let's get this valve cover replaced. Let me show you one more thing right quick. I'm going to take my finger and put it over it, reset it, see if it'll jump back up. But now it's going negative. Look at that. So once we replace this, this is what should be expected. Should be around -5 until it makes its accommodation. So I know for a fact this is going to fix our problem. As far as the air fuel ratio sensors, all this is pertaining to that. I'm very confident it is, but once I get this replaced, I'll just look at it, and if need to be, we could do some tests on that, but more than likely this should fix our problem. All right, here we go. Let's start tearing this down. I got a T30 and a E10 here. These are what I'm going to use in the little pick. So I'm going to use the T30 to get the coil packs out. I'm going to ideally be pretty careful with this joker. So zoom in on that. This little brake. Without breaking anything. Make this as fast as possible. Usually it's pretty difficult to get this out if it's sat here too long. Oh, this is easy. I like the plugs were replaced before. So here's our coil. This is a bad habit of putting stuff up here. Who else have issues? As soon as I put these on, it's like a 80% chance these are going to leak again on me. I don't know why. I go through the proper protocol of putting this on, and things still happen. But it's just me. What do you do about it? Like it always happened to me. Test drive the car, everything's fine. Put several miles on it, everything works out. Am I missing anything? And as soon as you get it back to somebody, you got problems. Come right on out of here. Oh gosh. Trying to have to do that. So this has 177,000 miles on it, and it does have sludge buildup in there. Yeah, there's our sludge. I like to keep some of this. I'm gonna see if I can save some of it. But I'm gonna tell you this: brake cleaner will tear this stuff to pieces. I'm gonna show you that. So we're gonna take some of this sludge out. I got some seafoam and some brake cleaner. So we're gonna, I'm gonna take a chunk of this, let it sit in these jars here. I wrote brake cleaner on here and seafoam on this one. So we'll pour seafoam in here, pour brake cleaner in there, and after I finish this repair, we'll take a look at the sludge and see which one broke down fastest. We'll put this in the seafoam. There's that. I don't know if you can see that well in there. Then we're gonna get the brake cleaner one. Some more out, and I got I got a chunk here, so we're gonna put that in the brake cleaner one. We're gonna pour some brake cleaner in here. Kind of let that soak in there. I tell you, this crap eat every freaking thing. It eats everything. All right, so we're gonna let those sit in there. It's only been like probably like 2 minutes already, and the brake cleaner's already starting to eat into the sludge buildup. The seafoam is just sitting there. So let's let that sit and give it an hour, and we'll come back to it. I like that one. These plugs definitely have some coolant leaking going on. Well, you know, I take that back. This is how dumb I am. I did put some brake cleaner on here. No, well, I sprayed the rag, so there's no way. There's no way the brake cleaner could have got it, because I didn't spray. No. I'm tripping, man. Alright. More brake cleaner. Brand new AC Delcos. Timing chain is tight for it to be so sludged up. Alright, like I said, one thing I've learned is just to keep this area where the valve cover is going to make just as dry as possible. This gasket, I tell you what, man. Golly. Alright, let me put some sealing on the corners here. Right around there. Personal preference wise, I mean, honestly, I just use black glue, something that doesn't dry real fast. Because if it cures real fast, it likely wouldn't have any flex. So we need to go through here. Yeah. The corners don't really have to have any, but I'm just put a dab in there. Probably a lot more than what needs to go in there, definitely. All right. You really don't need that much. I did go a little overboard. Make sure this joker, everything's flush. See, you want to make sure everything's flat. You put it in there, this joker will leak, and I tell you, it's very unforgiving. It don't care. It really needs to be sitting there perfect. I hate these gaskets. I hate these valve covers. I hate everything. Alright, let's see what happens. Sometimes what I'll do is put it like on a flat surface, push down on the valve cover, and then install it. I know it's flat then. See, like that. And this, I mean, this got my name written on it for like straight up disaster. I know you don't like me. Oh, gosh. Just work, please. Make it go bad. Out to get me. That feels good right there. Take that off last. Push down the middle. Make sure it's flat. Alright, looks pretty good. Go back over with a 1/4-inch drive, make sure it's snug. The new one does come with the new seal for the cap, so I was going to pull that off and without hurting myself. Everything gets the brake clean treatment. There's actually a little bit of sludge on the cap too. I wonder if anybody ever like pulled the bag out, like, and when you want to go to take the O-ring out and rip the O-ring mistakenly. That'll be a bad day, especially when your original O-ring broke. So I'm gonna put that on there. Don't need to lubricate anything. Just gotta change the oil anyway. It's nice and tight. Gosh. Oh yeah, perfect. Coil pack goes back in. Oh shoot. Back when I'm not breaking anything. I'm gonna go ahead and get the oil change, and then we'll look at the live data. I need to go ahead and get it out while the oil is not really hot, and it's been cool now since I've been working on it. Then we'll take a look at that brake cleaner and seafoam, see how that's working out. All right, I'm gonna try this one more time because my phone, for like the 5th time, continues to just like act stupid and freeze. Okay, so originally I started up, the fuel trims are perfect. Now it's at -10 once the car starts to warm up. Now it's a possibility. Initially when I started up, it was at it was taking away 4% simply because I had sprayed brake cleaner in there. So it did hesitate a little bit during the initial startup, and then it leveled out. So as from an open loop stage, from anything below 140 or something like that is typically going to be open loop. It's going to go through a default run condition, typically. Now, instead of having a positive fuel trim, we have negative. So it's still adding more fuel, but instead of the car originally is adding more fuel. So the thing is now, it's not lean, it's running rich. So it's taking away fuel. And so I'm gonna have to see what's going on with that and why that is happening. So it's a possibility the oxygen sensors may have, or the ampere ratio sensor may have some issues if it's stuck lean or not. But at the same time, it's a possibility. I just probably need to drive it because over time of like assuming that the vehicle's lean and making the accommodation to add more fuel, it probably fouled up oxygen sensor or the ampere ratio sensor. So it's a possibility that happened. But everything technically is fine, because it's still within 10%, -10, +10. So it's not bad. Every vehicle has its own tolerances. Like I worked on a Hyundai and it was like negative or positive 16.75%. And before it like literally registered checking, like it was crazy. But the car's running a lot better from what we initially had. But again, this is an auction vehicle. I'm going to take it on a quick spin, and we'll be back with that. But in the meantime, let's take a look at that brake cleaner and the seafoam. There's our seafoam and brake cleaner. So here's the brake cleaner. I mean, it just like pretty much disintegrated. I didn't do anything. I mean, it definitely took this out. Starting to work on degrading the sludge buildup. Seafoam pretty much. This shit don't do anything. I don't know why people actually buy seafoam, man. It doesn't do anything. It's oil based. It's not a solvent really. It doesn't do a good job of cleaning. And I'm not saying you're not supposed to put it in your oil, but you know, maybe it's a prerequisite to whatever's supposed to happen once things warm up. I don't know, but seafoam, I mean, solvent-wise, it's BS. I've actually used seafoam, like completely concentrated in injector in the non-dismantled injector service kit, and I can't begin to tell you that stuff. It didn't take any dirt out. It doesn't do anything. I think it has its benefits, but being oil-based, it's not going to really serve its purpose. But I'm not saying to put brake cleaner inside your oil to clean out any sludge buildup, but this definitely will degrade it if you had to take the pan down and spray brake cleaner in and let it soak. So it will definitely loosen up things. I use this brake cleaner a lot when I have to deal with sludge buildup and clean oil pans. But yeah. All right, let me take this car on a test drive. I just got back from a test drive a while ago. It started misfiring a little bit, and I had to look at the misfire graph, and the scan tool wound up being the cylinder 4 was misfiring, which is this one over here by the oil cap. And well, I swapped the coil pack because I got a spare one laying around. Didn't fix it. And so I wanted to pull that out, pull the spark plug, and the spark plug wound up being collapsed. The ground had made contact with the electrode, not sure how, because I put those spark plugs in there very fragile. And, well, I was under the impression that it fixed the misfire. It got a little better, then it started misfiring again, wound up needing a coil. So I put the used one I got on there, and it's working fine now. So that's weird. So I ain't gonna break my neck. I'm thinking maybe the collapsed one probably. Probably it can cause the coil in the internal coil to stress out. Maybe because it didn't have nowhere to arc to, but it still can go to the ground. That didn't make any sense. I don't know. I don't think that really messed up. I think it was just failing anyway. I don't know. But either way, it's running fine now. As far as labor time to replace, let me turn this car off. So yeah, in regards to the labor time, it's supposed to be around like 1.2 hours or something around about that to get this knocked out. Don't hold me on that because I'm not 100% positive. I didn't look up the labor time. I just looked up a while ago, and I'm very familiar with around about how long it takes. Kind of like done one. I mean, you kind of did them all in a way. It's very cut and dry. So I got the O-ring replaced for the coolant while I was out. That's just a regular O-ring you can get from a universal set. In regards to the coil failing, I'm gonna make an assumption and say it probably failed because the environment in the combustion chamber was more moist. Electricity can jump in a moist condition easier than a dry condition. So if it's dry outside, or if it's a dry environment, it's going to have a hard time making the jump between a gap than it would if it was moist, since fuel, the atomized fuel, can be a conductor. So that's just my assumption. It's probably why it worked, but at the same time, who knows? With that lean condition, it didn't stress the coil out as much. I'm going to assume when everything was working appropriately, because it added more fuel when it was running inappropriately. But then again, hell, I didn't dry the car when I first started up. I just pulled it in here and we just pulled up the scan tool. Well, I pulled up the scan tool and was looking for the misfire, well, not misfire, but the what was causing the poor running conditions, and just jumped on it from there. So who knows? I don't know. But it's fixed now. It's working perfectly fine. But I'm going to take it on another test drive, because just my luck, this will fail on somebody else's watch and not mine, because it just happens. I'm going to drive it again another 5 miles and then recheck it. These cars will sneak up on you, these issues. Everything works fine. As soon as you give it back, boom, hey, my car's leaking oil. Like, seriously, it's gonna. I don't want it to happen. So I'd rather be better safe than sorry. But if anything happens, I'll definitely update. But this is pretty much cut and dry. We looked at some check engine light codes. Correlated all of them to point directly to that valve cover. Is crazy, but when you have a check engine light code, you don't have any sensors for like specific for vacuum leaks. So what happens? The computer takes an array information or feedback from an array of sensors, and then based on how it's programmed, it will make a determination that this is what's going on, and it's up to the mechanic or the person diagnosing the vehicle to make the assessment. It didn't tell me it had a vacuum leak. Yes, we have TSBs and common issues with the vacuum leak with this, but based on what was going on externally from various sensors, all those sensors weren't bad. It was just one issue causing a correlation, causing a host of codes, and you can just kind of correlate it with one issue, which is a vacuum leak. So this correlation was definitely a causation. I'm gonna get lost. I'm calling it a day, but other than that, hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, have the reassurance of my work. See you next one.